All right, guys, so welcome to the D.Hill Report. I'm D.Hill. And so this episode is going to be about elections. And basically I want to start off by saying that our early election started this week. It's going to go into next week. And also the official day is May 3rd. So, or not May 3rd, November 3rd. So make sure you check out the description below for times and locations, depending on, where you live in your county. And also, you're going to need a voter ID and a voter registration card. So make sure you guys get on top of those things. Just bring a driver's license, you'll be all right. So let's talk about the candidates. I broke it down into 4 different groups. Hopefully this isn't the first time you've heard these names before. I have the police guy. So the police guy is Adrian Garcia. In 2008, he became the sheriff of Harris County. He's been a police officer for about 23 years. And he's been a councilman for about 6 years. He also worked for Mayor Bill White against crime. So that's just a little bit about him. The next group is the business guy, and that's Marty McVeigh. Basically, he's just a shareholder that owns shares in private equity firms. He also is a licensed real estate broker. He's just basically a guy who invests money and stuff like that. So the next group I have is the attorney businessman. That's Ben Hall and Bill King. Ben Hall, besides being an attorney, he owns 2 radio stations. One of them is the oldest black radio station in the greater city Houston area. And he's also a minister. He's been a minister for about 40 years. Bill King, besides being an attorney, he was the president of Southwest Airlines, or Southwest Airport Services from 91 up until February of this year. And he's also a columnist for the Houston Chronicle. The last group are the attorney politicians. And so you have Stephen Costello, and he's an at-large position 1 member right now currently for the city council. You also have Chris Bell, who's an attorney. He used to be a radio reporter back in the day, and he used to be a position 4 councilman for the city council between 1997 to 2002. He was also a Democratic U.S. House Representative of Texas for District 25 between 2003 and 2005. The last one on this list is Sylvester Turner. Besides being an attorney, he was is the Democratic member of the Texas House of Representatives, representing District 139, and he's been basically in that same position since 1989. And so the guy's like, people just continually vote him in there, and he's just like, all right, whatever, I'll stay. I also have another group in addition to that 4. I call them the non-factors. Basically, guys whose names you're going to see on the ballot, but nobody knows anything about. 2 in particular are very interesting. Now, I've heard some comments from certain media outlets saying that they wish they had a Donald Trump in the race. Actually, we do. Her name is Victoria Lane. She's pretty crazy. I actually had the opportunity to meet her at one of the forums.
I have businesses in the Philippines and Argentina. So if you'd like to go to Argentina, you come with me.
Ran for Forbes Super Neighborhood Community Candidate Forum. And so a lot of the candidates were here, were able to get a chance to get to see who they were as a person. Not too much information because of time restraints. We had the mayor, we had controller, we also had at-large council for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and District B. So we're here with Victoria Lane. Victoria,
yes.
What are some of the challenges that Houston has?
We are in deficit, 17.2 billion in debt. We're close to being in there like the Detroit of Michigan. He went bankrupt. We're near to that, 45%.
So what were your plans to try to fix some of the problems that Houston has?
We have to audit all the books of all the different departments and find out where the money, because what this book was saying that we have a lot of income, revenue, but the mismanagement, overpaying people, and even paying people outside of Houston.
Demetria Smith is interesting. She seems like she's she's in this race for the right reasons. She just doesn't have a backing. And so, maybe it's the lack of experience, or she has just been able to collect donations, which actually ties into the next section of this video, is the order of contributions. And so this kind of explains why you see certain candidates and why you don't see others. This year alone, there's been about $8 million that was raised in contributions. 6.5 of that $8 million has actually been spent. And so out of that $8 million, you have Adrian Garcia and Stephen Costello getting about $1.5 million in contributions in their June reports. And they spent about Well, really, Adrian Garcia didn't really spend most of his money until the second reporting that happened in September. He spent about $1 million, and that's when you started seeing a lot of his ads. Stephen Costello is basically the same. He waited until the September report to really start releasing ad campaigns and getting out there and promoting. Marty McVeigh is very interesting because Marty has raised $1 million in the June report, but he's basically been sitting on that cash. Like, he hasn't done anything. He's like the definition of the guy who's just running just to get paid. And so, but he's a businessman, so what did you expect? You also have Bill King and Sylvester Turner. They've roughly got about $760,000 in the first reports in June, and roughly the same numbers in the second report. Sylvester is really interesting, though, because he spent about 1.3 of that, of his total contributions in the September report in his campaign. So he's really been kicking it up a notch late in the race. So an interesting note to add is Ben Hall. He didn't really get too much contributions this year in the race, yet he still has about 800,000 in holdings, and so he's been basically self-financing his whole race. It must be nice just to have 800,000 just sitting. It's crazy. So my final thoughts for this: a lot of the candidates talked about the potholes, new bike lanes, having local control over the budget, especially in relation to pensions. The whole pension thing is a little challenging. Let's say that they can't get local control and they get shot down. What are they going to do next? And so we actually asked that question at Who Decides, and that last debate that aired on Channel 11 and also on PBS. And the answers were interesting. I mean, I appreciate the honesty. They would basically say that, librarians will get cut, programs will get cut, officers, firemen. And so it's difficult because we don't really fully know the scale of things. And it's really tough to say, how much are firemen worth, how much are police officers worth. And so I don't know. It's a difficult thing for a normal person to really try to weigh in on. And so I don't really know there's a right answer to that. Another thing I noticed, none of the candidates really talked about the sex trafficking that happens in the city. It's a huge problem, and it's something that is underneath our noses that none of us really fully pay attention to. And so, I would have liked one of the candidates at least to address the issue, say, hey, this is a problem that we should probably fix. It's not popular, I understand that, but it's something that needs to be talked about. And so that was one of my things I was a little disappointed on. Another thing I was disappointed on was I do understand that Houston's economy is mainly based on oil and gas. Whenever you talk about that, you're always diving into a situation where you're messing with people's livelihoods. People, make a living off of oil and gas, and fossil fuels. How unfortunate that is, but I feel like if we focused our attention on retraining the people who are already in those types of industries to say, hey, okay, let's focus on kinetic energy. It'd be really nice to have sidewalks that had that capabilities. Moving into solar power, moving into wind power. There's a whole bunch of different options now. And if we really just, as a collective group, focused on, implementing those things and really changing our trajectory, we could salvage the planet for a little bit longer, But clearly, we don't give any F's about the next generation. So, that's going to be thrown out the window. Anyway, so the next thing is transportation. I was really curious about the city of Houston in terms of, it's so big, it's like the fourth biggest city in this country. Yet it doesn't have a serious public transportation system. If you look at New York has subways, they have trains, you have all these different ways of getting around without using a car. Detroit has a monorail, actually San Francisco has a really good light rail. And so our light rail kind of sucks if you look at it, and really all we have is a metro bus system that, it gets stuck in traffic. It would be really nice if we had a monorail or some type of light rail that was off the ground, independent of traffic, that ran from like these outlying counties like Katy and stuff like that into downtown, straight shot. It may take you like 30 minutes to get to work. and it's independent from traffic. One, that would reduce the amount of cars on the road, which would reduce traffic. And also, we do need to focus on how much emissions that we're putting into the air. I mean, this goes back into the whole ecosystem thing that we don't care about. So, but anyway, that's just me ranting. But I do want to stress the importance of local elections. Really important for us to get out there and just spend at least 5 minutes of research. Just 5. You know, I'm not asking for a whole bunch. I'm gonna give you links on the bottom of this video that you can go to. So just spend a little time doing research on each of the candidates. Figure out who you mesh with well. This is not a popularity contest, guys. You know, you really need to see who you're putting into office. And these guys affect us directly. You know, like our taxes. You know, they are the ones that spend our taxes. You know, they are the ones that, you know, will implement change as far as fixing roads. And so we really need to focus on these elections. I know it sucks. You know, it's just like you're busy with other things. You'd rather watch Game of Thrones and other stuff, but try to spend a little bit of time. As a collective group, we can create change. But we can't do it if everyone thinks that their vote doesn't matter, you know, and then they choose not to vote. And because then what happens is that those nut jobs out there, no offense if you're a nut job, but, you know, the ones that are very vocal and active end up running the show. And so we need to take our control back. And so that's just my little rant for that day. But I hope you guys go out and vote. Hopefully I gave you guys enough information to make at least on your way to make a decision. Like I said, you have this week, you have next week, and the 3rd is the last day. And so if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. And I'll see you guys in the next episode.